Welcome to Assault Learn and Play Part 66, Chapter 968, Movement Actions Part 6, Infantry Specific Movement. Infantry Specific Movement. Infantry units can advance into almost any terrain. They can also moved by units with transportability or armored vehicles with tracked movement. Infantry units are not subject to any phasing requirements for movement and may turn in any direction without using any of the movement allowance. Movement can be either fast or normal. Digging in. Infantry units can fortify their positions by using a dig in action. On the next game turn, the corresponding unit will be considered dug in and is granted an additional green die defense die. While digging in, the unit will lose its weakest defense die. However, they will always retain a minimum of one defense die. Infantry units can dig in all terrain that they may enter, excluding fortifications. The dug-in marker remains in the hex until the unit moves out or is eliminated. An exception to this is the detachment action, 982. After a detachment action, the dug-in marker retains. I will show up this in the tabletop simulator. So, as you see, infantry units are counted without a green arrow or red arrow, so they have no phasing and so they can turn around like you want. They have a 360-degree arc of fire. And we learned in the former part, in the first part, we can provide a normal action, which is using the normal movement allowance of this unit, or you can do a fast action which gives +1 more movement allowance to this unit. If you want to dig in and fortify your position, you can do this in every terrain the infantry can go, but not inside of fortifications. So I'm not allowed to dig in the bunker, but I'm allowed to dig in on a clear terrain, and I will activate for a dig in action. And as you know from the organization phase, after all actions the yellows are flipped once, and you see now the benefit of the dug in. They are dug in on a clear terrain, searching for cover, using all stuff they find to get more defense bonus. In this case they get a green die when got shot. If the infantry moves forward to the next turn, this dug in marker gets eliminated. That's the thing for dug in. Artillery units are not allowed to dug in, and of course panzers and vehicles too. We have an additional specific movement situation for infantry. It's called reinforcing a position. Reinforcing a position is a special movement rule for infantry units. With the help of reinforcing position, a player can swap two adjacent infantry units simultaneously during one action round. The prerequisite for this is that both infantry units are adjacent and have not been activated. To perform this exchange, the player must activate and mark both units with a normal action marker on them. If you are playing with command points, the optional rule, 2 command points are needed. Then the player can move both units markers to the corresponding hex. Units must have the sufficient movement points to perform the step with a normal action. These units are subject to reaction fire. Reinforcing a position can be helpful if you want to reinforce an important position, such as a bunker, with fresh forces, and there is a danger that an enemy unit wants to take possession of it. So I will show this in this simulator. So reinforcing a position is in the situation here. For example, the Rangers got heavily damaged and close to get eliminated. So normally you have one action a turn with one unit. The reinforcing a position is an exception to this, because if you assume you have one action, you can of course take one action, move out your infantry unit here, then the opponent is on his action and he can simply moves in without getting trouble. This was the reason why we have implemented this reinforcing a position. In this case now we have this heavily damaged unit, and we have the prerequisites. Both are not allowed to be activated, so they have to be fresh. Then the player can call out, of course, the activation of both units simultaneously during one action phase. And I say, and you have to prerequisite, it must be able, this unit, to take a normal action for this. So entering this bunker is on a clear terrain. For infantry there is no modification, so you have 1 point to move in, and of course 1 point or 2 to move to the light forest. Both units, rifles and rangers, so the units are exchanging, must not be the same type of unit. So here we have rangers and rifles, and I activate now both units simultaneously and say, okay, just move out here and to here, and he just moves in with a fresh unit. The disadvantage is, of course, I activate both units in one action, and locks, of course, a second unit I can use in a later action sequence. But okay, it is worth doing it because now I have a fresh unit inside the bunker. Of course, every movement during this situation is subject to reaction fire. So if he moves out on the hex, which is a clear terrain, and there would have been opportunity for the German to make a reaction fire, I can easily eliminate this unit. For example, if this unit is here, I can fire on the same elevation level 1, and I think it's a good chance to eliminate. But in that case, I have no line of sight, so I can move undisturbed here. And so I can move in, and of course the move in, we learned it from the fortress and obstacles, from fortification obstacles, then the moving in of such a terrain with a bunker is subject to reaction fire, and of course then the bunker is not counting because they are just moving into the bunker, and I have a chance to perform a reaction fire here. So be careful if you do some kind of reinforcement action. That's it for reinforcing a position. Coming to our next infantry specific rule, we have the possibility of a hidden movement for infantry. Hidden movement is a special type of movement for infantry and simulates the movement of soldiers with a low crawl. A unit moving with this type of movement is difficult for the enemy to detect. After completing the movement, the unit hides in the terrain. To perform a hide action, the player activates an infantry unit and marks it with the hide action marker. The hide action is performed like a normal movement action, but the movement range is limited to a maximum of 1 hex per activation. Hidden movement is not possible if the movement allowance on the unit card, normally 2 for infantry units, would trigger a delayed action, see harsh terrain. Hidden movement is not possible on road hexes. Note: units with a slow ability can be activated to perform a hide action and hide in the current hex. The hidden movement of 1 hex distance is not possible if the unit has a slow attribute. A unit with hide action status marker gains 1 additional blue defense die. Enemy units intending to fire on a unit with a hide action marker must make a spotting roll. The result of the spotting roll is reduced by 1. A unit with a hide action marker is not considered to have an action marker if close combat is initiated against it. So let us assume this situation. These rifles are intending to close up to the bunker. In the bunker is a Cal 50, which is a nasty machine gun from the US side. So the German player decides not to go with a normal action via this clear terrain into the rocky terrain, because then he is easily spotted, because on clear terrain there is no spotting roll necessary. We learn it on a later part when it goes to ranged fire. But on a clear terrain, no spotting roll is necessary. For this example important. So the player can decide to make a low crawl to use most cover as they can get. And this means, as I explained in front with the rules, I can move up to 1 hex in a hide action. So this unit is now hiding themselves most or best as they can on the clear terrain, and you see it on the marker here. It's a normal action with one limit of 1 hex. They gain 1 blue extra defense die, and an attacker has to do a spotting roll. So this is an exception to the rules that on clear no spotting roll is necessary, but now the defender as the attacker has to do a spotting roll -1. So this is a better chance to survive and crawl against such kind of fortifications to get close and go into a close combat or other things. So this is the hide action. And as you know, during the organization phase, the yellow markers got flipped. So now this hidden status is not an only for infantry specific rule, but at the end of the turn during the organization phase, the hide action marker is flipped and the unit is considered hidden. A unit with a hidden status marker gains 1 additional blue defense die, like performing a hide action. The hidden marker remains on a unit until it is activated and takes another action or receives a different status marker, e.g. movement, firing, fall back or so, or is engaged in close combat. For example, the player decides to activate a unit with hidden status marker to perform a normal action. The hidden status marker gets exchanged with a normal action marker. Enemy units that intend to fire on a unit with a hidden marker must make a spotting roll -2 now. So you see they have taken time to get into more cover and hide themselves from enemies. If a unit marked with a hidden marker performs an attack, it is treated as if it has an attack die -1. So this is a disadvantage. So they really conceal themselves from enemies, but then they need time to go out and fight. So they have an advantage in getting spotted, but have a disadvantage when they want to fire. But important for you to know is that the hidden marker is a precondition to get into the ambush status. So this is again not only infantry specific, it is for all units performing a hide action. If a unit with a hidden status marker is not activated in the game turn before, its hidden status marker is exchanged for a red ambush status marker during the organization phase. The unit has set up for an ambush and awaits the enemy. Then you have to take into account range fighter modifications. A unit with an ambush status marker gains 1 additional blue defense die. The attacker with ambush status marker gains automatically 1 suppression symbol when firing on an enemy unit. And defenders fired from an ambush with ranged fire loses the weakest terra defense bonus die. This is cumulative to the other defense die modifications. So you see a unit in ambush has a really advantage firing first on an enemy, and therefore it takes some time to prepare an ambush. Close combat modification. If the defending unit is marked with ambush, then it may add 1 additional green attack die in its initial close combat round. So you see they are well prepared for firefight and for close combat. The ambush starter marker remains on a unit until it is activated and takes another action or receives a different status marker, or is engaged in close combat. For LG, the player activates this unit to perform a normal action. The hidden action starter marker gets exchanged with a normal action status marker. So hidden and ambush would be right. Enemy units that intend to fire on a unit with an ambush status marker must make a spotting roll -1. So you see, infantry can do a hidden movement to make a low crawl, to go close to a fortified position, or to prepare an ambush going via the hidden status. So this is a mix of infantry specific and general rules for other units. I will show this in the simulator. So we have this unit now here on the clear terrain. I made a hide action in the former turn and I'm now hidden. So in the next turn I can decide move forward again with a hide action to come close to the bunker or to prepare an ambush. In this case on a clear terrain, for me it makes no sense to do again exchange this to an ambush. So I want to make again a hide action to go into that rocky to get more cover,   and   and   defense. So but if I have a second unit here, and I'm awaiting enemies coming up the hill. I can use this hide action, of course, in one turn. So I do not have to move one hex. I can stay in the hex and activate the hide action. And after this turn, it will flip during the organization phase. And then I have to wait the whole next turn. And I'm not allowed to perform any action, because then I lose this marker. For example, if I start firing, I lose this hidden marker exchanged by a firing. And everybody knows here is my rifles. So I lock my unit the whole as a turn. The enemy is coming close, for example. With the turn, then is the game turn is then over. The white markers got removed, and the green one, the player can decide if he wants to exchange it with an ambush marker. I want now to decide it with the ambush marker, and then the next turn begins, and I can wait the enemy which is approaching probably here. And then I can say, oh, ambush, I start firing on a reaction, or if there's no reaction fire, I can just start firing with all the advantages I have from that ambush marker. That's possible with my infantry unit here. So just to summarize, infantry units have some options to do. You can do a normal action, a fast action, you can do low crawl with the hide action, you can dig in your infantry unit, you can reinforce a position. So this is in a summary all you can do. You can prepare an ambush and so on. So this was the chapter for infantry specific movement actions, and we go to the next part.